Welcome back, friendlies and non-friendlies. It's been a long while since I played RPG Maker 3. I've actually sold this project off like a year ago, like one of the last times I played the game. And since I've been working on it in secrecy, and got quite a lot done, made some major changes as far as direction that I want to take the project in. Today we're going to be starting a new series where I'm going to show how I make the games. So quite a lot of things have changed since the last time I showed this off. One of the main things changed quite a bit was that I started using variables instead of using plain events. I'll explain variables in a minute, but first let me showcase what I'm doing right now. You see me moving stuff around and messing around with the events in this room. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to utilize a glitch in the tool where it allows you to move an object into an out of bounds area. In this game, you aren't allowed to move an object on top of a preset object or any other object for that matter. So what I'm doing is I'm placing my event in place, and then I'm changing the house event, which is in a different menu, to expand the out of bounds area, and then I switch it back and it allows me to move my event because the out of bounds area was increased by changing the house and changing it right back, and then it leaves my event or whatever item that I placed in that out of bounds area, and it allows for some unique manipulation. But I didn't quite like the way it looked. I didn't quite like the way it turned out, because it looked like the object was floating on top of the preset object, which is the bed in this case, or the stool. So I swapped it back. So one of the main things I've been doing differently in this time around in making the project was I started using variables, as I mentioned before. And I didn't know how to use it before. That's the main reason why I have never toyed with it. And I have to say, I was quite underutilizing the capabilities by shunning it and writing it off. It is quite a valuable tool that allows me to essentially double my output with less resources, and it is just such a useful thing. And what I'm doing here is there's a event that allows you to set a value for your variables. Now let me explain to you guys what a variable is in the way that I've identified and learned what it is. Variable is effectively a invisible event. It's an event number pool, and each number pool dictates a different event that you want to run or trigger. When that number is called, then that event will trigger based on the parameters that you set. That may sound confusing, so let me try that again to explain it. So a variable is an invisible event that is always in play. There is no set object that you place to have that event or to have that variable run. The moment that the game starts, every single variable that is available is set at a value of 0. And in order to use these variables, you have to set an event, and you have to go to the properties section, and then you have to increase these shared variables. Now there's shared variables, and then there's internal variables. They're the same things, it's just the internal is just specifically set for that one location. It's effectively just extra storage space for your variables. You set an activation for the variable has to reach this number for that to trigger, right? And then that's what happens, right? You can set this all into one single event, whereas if you're using an event and trying to activate things, you're going to need at least 2 to perform the same thing. So it saves you a lot of space. So I'm using variables a lot more, and I'm using an controlled event, which allows me to set a value, kind of like the decision branch, where you can choose like yes or no. You want 4 choices, or kind of like that. There's a section for that for variables that allows you to set trigger points. Now this is where variables really come in handy when I'm really abusing this time around, because it allows me to set 4 trigger points, meaning 4 different outcomes in one single event. Can't stress how useful variables are, and it's really not that hard to understand how to use. You just have to take a little bit of time and understand what it actually is. But moving on, what I'm doing in this particular room is I'm trying to set an event where the player is going to be facing some turmoil from the outside. You know, I want the world to come alive, and I don't want it to be like what do they call it? I don't want it to be a world that is empty, where it seems like there's just you just going around and doing stuff. It's quite a tough task, but I'm trying to implement a gameplay element that makes the world interact with you, and when that happens, it becomes a bit of a mini game where you have to do specific things to complete it and to survive. This is going to be a survival horror attempt, at least, for RPG Maker 3, and I'm trying to set the appropriate spacing within this room to have trigger points. I'm a little bit too close to the stairway, where I need there to be room between the stairway and the door, but when this event happens and takes place, I need to lock the doorway off so that the player can't completely disrupt the event from taking place. I want this event to lock the player in this event, essentially, and for it to be able to be completed before the player can leave the room in one way or another. I need the appropriate amount of spacing between the stairways, a really tight room, placing these variable events to make a way out for the player, using variables in a way that it can kind of give I don't want it to be like the same solution every single time. So I'm trying to have a bit of generationness. It's not going to be random. It's just going to be a cycle that you may seem random, and hopefully it feels that way. So I'm trying to make this game breathe in a life of its own. And at this point, currently on my project, I'm working heavily on this one town section, and I feel like once I get enough done with this town section, I can get this project in a state where it becomes sentient in a way, where it takes on a life of its own. And once I reach that point of stability, then I can start moving at a more rapid pace. Once I filled out the identity of the core basics of what I want to be in the player loop. So I'm still not quite at that point yet where I've reached satisfactory on a lot of minor basic fundamental details that is going to decide how addictive this game can be. So there's not really much gameplay, as far as what I really have in store for this to be. So you're not going to really see that much of that until like months later videos. So I can't really show that much off, but I can show you the decorations I've made and changes. And that's pretty much all for this video, and I plan to continue on with more of these in the future and share my progress as we keep going along. And with that, I bid you further adieu. May peace be with. Always keep your heads up. Deuces, dos, both adios, stay cool. If you like this content, be sure to show some love, but always be sure to show that love to the people who matter to you. This is ITOwl bidding you fairly the most wells. Stay blessed, stay cool, and be cool. Peace, much love. Deuces.